Hello! Today we're going to talk about the writer's strike. The writer's strike, for anybody who doesn't know, is occurring. They're out there with their picket sticks and their, bongos, and they're going, hey, we deserve a livable wage. Bob Iger and his friends are up on the mountain making buku bucks, and we're down here with our typewriters eating cockroaches off the ground. And so I've been here on the sidelines observing this. And somewhere along the way, I started to think to myself, I don't think this is all adding up. So I decided to take a look. First of all, the writers in 2021, those that are in the guild anyway, of the 4,934 writers, they made $1.13 billion. Now, that averages out to about $225,000 in the year per writer, but that's the average, right? That doesn't indicate the average writer or the mode writer, right? Or even necessarily the mean. That could just be the top guys making millions of dollars a year, and the rest of them are making nothing, right? Fair. So I decided to take a further look. Let's imagine a staff writer, which is the lowest tier of writer protected by the guild. A staff writer sits in the writer's room, they break stories, and they sometimes write a script, but they do not have to write a single word. In fact, they will be compensated for their work, which it is work in the writer's room, but they don't have to write a script to be considered a writer. In such case, they are a staff writer. A staff writer makes the following income. Week to week, base pay minimum is $5,300. On a 14-week stint, they're making $4,900 a week. Okay? Now, let's imagine a staff writer working on a Netflix show for about 14 weeks. They're going to end up making almost $69,000 for 14 weeks. That's 3.5 months. Now, if you ask me, that's pretty good, right? But it doesn't necessarily stop there. What if that staff writer does write a script? They write an episode. Maybe it's a 30-minute episode for this hypothetical Hulu show. A 30-minute episode on said hypothetical Hulu show will net them $28,000 in addition to their $69,000 pay. This means that they're making almost $100,000 for 14 weeks of work and one 30-minute script. Okay? Again, pretty good. And that's the bottom. We're talking about a hypothetical, possible, low-paid worker. One of the bottom-tier writers in the guild being paid. $100,000 for 14 weeks of work and a 30-minute script. Okay? That's what we're talking about. Now, I know what you're thinking, though. You're thinking, hey, man, it's not about that. It's about these streaming platforms and their residuals. These guys aren't making enough in residuals. Netflix is out here. They're doing big numbers. Hulu's doing big numbers, etc., etc. So, okay, let's take Hulu, right? The way in which you calculate residuals is residual base times exhibition year percentage times subscriber factor. And hopefully I'm showing you the numbers on screen right now. Who knows, but hopefully they're up there. In order to calculate this, it's based on these numbers that have been previously negotiated, and you take the whatever and you do whatever. So let's just take our specific hypothetical, right? Our staff writer who wrote a script. They wrote a 30-minute script for Hulu. They got paid the $28,000. They got paid for the 14 weeks of work, and now we're calculating their residuals. Their residuals, while calculating exhibition year percentage, subscriber factor, and the other dumb thing that I described, residual base, is going to come out to a total of $34,000 over the next, I think it's 12 years. And then each year after, they're on a slight, they'll still be getting paid, but it's very minimal. But after those 12 years, they get an additional $34,000 in addition to their already $100,000 pay. So we're talking about a staff writer, lowest tier, or one of the lowest tiers of pay, and they're making $135,000 for 14 weeks of work. Okay? So, I looked at these numbers and I thought to myself, okay, well, this isn't making sense, right? And let's just, for, argument's sake, let's compare it to other types of crew that are working on these studio productions. For example, in Local 728, a lighting technician, a chief lighting technician, mind you, is going to make $3,100 per week. That means they're making 34%, a third of what the staff writer's making in a 14-week production. The difference, though, is that a lighting technician, a chief lighting technician, is the head of a department. They are integral to the production on a day-to-day. They're working possibly longer hours, probably longer hours, and they're not striking too often. Okay, so let's just put that in perspective. They're also getting a third of the pay. So, again, what is this all about? I mean, these guys can't be lying to us, these strikers, right? There has to be good faith involved here. Of course, right? Well, let's take a look. Alex O'Keefe, who's sort of one of the talking heads he's become, or at least one of the faces of the writer's strike, has been going on CNN and other platforms talking about how he's dead, poor, broke. He's living below the poverty line. He worked on The Bear, which is a hit show, award-winning. It's this massive popular show. And how is it that he can be so dead broke? Fair. So let's take a look. Alex O'Keefe, according to The New Yorker, worked for 9 weeks from Zoom. Okay. Worked in the writer's room from his couch. Got it. Then we look at IMDb and we see that he's credited as a staff writer. Okay, understood. So then if we look at the wages that are determined by the Writers Guild, that means for 9 weeks of work, he made about $44,000. Never wrote a script, mind you. Let's compare our friend, the lighting technician, right? Again, this guy who didn't work from his couch, had to show up to production. Let's just say he's, for some reason, also had to work 9 weeks of work. He's making, again, a third of what this guy's making from his couch. And didn't write a script. Seems pretty, I don't know. You get what I'm saying? Anyway, moving on. The reason that Mr. O'Keefe is getting such a, in my mind, is a decent wage. I mean, the guy made $44,000 for 9 weeks of pay. 9 weeks of work. There's plenty of people in this country that would kill for that opportunity to sit on their couch and make $44,000 from Zoom and not write a thing. The reason he's afforded that pay is because of the protections of his union. And you know who's not in a union? This guy. The Projectionist 4544. Who the fuck is the Projectionist 4544? Well, he made a video that I basically just ripped. He investigated the pay of these workers, and he calculated all the things that I basically just showed off to you. And he determined the same things that I did. Well, I determined the same things that he did, is a better way to say it, because he's the one who did the work. My point is, This guy is not in a union. He's beholden to these big tech corporations. He's probably on YouTube. I don't know. I tried to find his YouTube, couldn't find it. Point is, I can just walk in and steal his work. And this guy's not striking. This guy's making videos about the strike. You get what I'm saying? Meanwhile, these other folks who are making a lot of money, again, average is $225,000 a year, are out there striking. Not the lighting techs, not the grippers. They're all working on commercials now. And you know why that is? Because they can't afford to go on strike. The writers can go on strike because they get paid so well. They can afford to do this. We've talked about the numbers here. They're clearly compensated decently. Now, could Bob Iger and his buddies take a pay cut? Absolutely. But let's not pretend like these guys are poverty-stricken Oliver Twist folk, because they're not. Additionally, when you start to think about the types of writers that there are, the example that I presented was a staff writer on a Hulu show, similar to Alex O'Keefe, getting paid the bare minimum. Not all writers are getting paid the bare minimum. People who are working on, the hit shows, the White Lotus, the Last of Us, the Successions of the world, these guys are making great money and they're putting out great products, and then they can leverage those great products to go work on other great products and get compensated even more. But we have a environment where a lot of these writers are producing a lot of terrible shit. And now they're going on strike. There's countless examples of just dog water TV on these streaming platforms. And there was a shotgun approach from these studios to get shit out, and it hasn't worked. There's a lot of crap. They're doing a lot of canceling. And now these strikers are kind of helping them out. In addition to the Projectionist not being in a union, other people who aren't in a union are people like Theo Vaughn. Oh, he might be. But my point is that he went on a podcast known as the Joe Rogan podcast. Pretty popular. Most people know about it, right? He goes on the Joe Rogan podcast and he talks about, he's making this joke about how there was a guy in his neighborhood when he was a kid who would sell wooden shirts. Okay, he's riffing on this joke for 15 minutes. The joke is meh, but Joe likes it because he's a Neanderthal. And this goes on for, again, about 15 minutes. Then what happens? A few months, weeks, a year goes by, and the hit show, The Lil Dicky Show, Dave, puts out an episode in which they feature a man selling wooden shirts. Okay? And then the writers who took Theo Vaughn's joke and put it on a TV show go on strike. So that's where we're at. That is the environment here. And it seems a little bit misguided in my mind. Now, I empathize with people who are losing their jobs and who can't afford certain bills, whatever the fuck. I get it, whatever. This is a nuanced issue is my point. These writers do make good money or make a lot of money. Whether it is fair as it compares to Bob Iger and his butt buddies, okay, sure. But the idea that these people are poverty-stricken, homeless people is absurd. It is almost absurd to the point that it could be offensive. And I don't think people are really aware of the pay that these people are getting. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents. Hope you enjoyed this. Maybe not. I don't know. Thanks. Love you. Bye.